Welcome to Sports Scope, the most influential sports talk show in the nation.
What is today, the 19th?
Stay tuned for updates and great sports content.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Real Sports Scope. I'm your host, Robert Butler, on this 31st day, Halloween. So I got my orange tie on, pumpkin tie, right? Nick Saban's birthday today. He'll be 73. Going to talk about the World Series. What does Mike Trout think now that his former teammate has won a World Series, first year with the new team? And what were the Yankees thinking? What were the Yankees thinking there in the fifth inning? Going to talk about that. And, of course, talk about tonight's game. It's actually a pretty good game. I don't know why, but for whatever reason, the Jets are actually favored over Houston. I know that, we have those Thursday games really favor the home team, but I don't know. I kind of like Houston tonight. I'll talk about that, a little quick preview. And we'll do an NBA preview. I'll give you my thoughts, my concerns about the teams around the league. Didn't get a chance to do this last week. They crept up on us with the start of the regular season, and I'll give you my finals prediction. It's pretty tough to figure it out this year, but stand by. We'll take our first and only break. We'll be back here momentarily, and I'll hit the ground running here on the Real Sports Scope. Hello, Sports Scope followers. The program has seen tremendous growth since going 5 days a week. I just wanted to thank everybody for your cash contributions and sharing the program with friends and families. Just a reminder, if you want to contribute to the program, go to the Cash App, the cash sign, and Sports Scope. There are other ways to contribute to the program listed at the bottom of the screen. If you want to advertise on the program, go to sports, that is sports with an S, another S, scope, SKOPE, at gmail.com, just like it's listed at the bottom of the screen. Thank you and enjoy the program.
I'm Mac, CEO of National Streaming Sports and host of the Mac and Jack Sports Show. You're watching the sharp-dressed man and the big story breaker, Robert Butler, on Sports Scope, Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Eastern on National Streaming Sports.
Introducing National Streaming Sports, live and on-demand sports talk programming that you can access 24/7. For the premier sports talk experience, tap into our Roku channel. Start your mornings with Mac and Jack covering all the weekend sports action. Then pour a cup and enjoy all the sports you can drink on the Coffee and Sports podcast. At midday, talk sports from east to west on the Coast to Coast podcast. Followed at night by some hot girl talk with Prim and Proper Sports featuring Sonia Pearson. Talk boxing on the Gloved Fist. Yankee fans tune in for Start Spreading the News. And there's more on the College Sports Huddle and Sports Scope with Robert Butler. There are 20 podcasts in all and 70 weekly shows, giving us a 3.4-star viewer rating. To find us on Roku TV, search for National Streaming Sports on the Roku search bar. Click on the logo and you're in. National Streaming Sports, live and on-demand sports talk for America.
National Streaming Sports is brought to you in part by BetUs.com, designed for true fans. NFL odds, Week 1 and futures, college football odds, including Heisman Trophy favorites and playoff odds, NBA odds of division winners and playoffs, Major League Baseball playoff and World Series odds, the National Hockey League Conference playoffs and Stanley Cup odds, and boxing wagers. Betting opportunities include versus the spreads and outright winners, also during the game. Use our link on our website, nessp.info, the Bet Us Opportunities webpage, for a 125% bonus on your first 3 deposits. Must be 21 years old, and remember, bet responsibly.
All righty then. Hello, everybody. I'm back here. Sorry about that long wait. Anyways, happy Halloween again. Happy birthday to Nick Saban. 73 years old today. Okay. Greatest college basketball coach of all time, or NBA college football coach of all time. I'll stay about NBA, and I said basketball. Okay, quick take since the game's going to come on here in about 10 minutes or so. Your Jets, are you Jet fans? I know it's kind of a really depressing start of the season with all this star power. Depressing is not the right word. Frustrating start to the season. You've got all these stars up there, and you move off a coach, and you still can't get any traction here. But ironically, the Jets are actually favored tonight over Houston, which is crazy. But I understand Thursday night game up in East Rutherford, New Jersey seems the favor. I guess maybe that Vegas or the odds makers were thinking that you've got Hassan Reddick. He's getting his second game back to start the season. Maybe he gets his legs out from underneath him, and that the pass rush can actually get to C.J. Stroud. I kind of wish they would have probably not fired Saleh because of his defensive presence, but it is what it is. We talked about that before. It seems like Mr. Woodson was afraid to approach Saleh, and so he decided he had security removing. That being said, their defense is taking a hit. I mean, they gave up, 25 points to the lowly New England Patriots on Sunday here, and now they've got a short week playing against a Houston team that's in first place in their division and really looking good going towards the playoffs, kind of separating themselves from the AFC South here. So both teams do have defensive injuries, but that being said, again, I like Houston 27-23, but we'll see. We'll see how that thing plays out. Maybe the Jets can figure it out at home. As I've said, about the last 3 games for the Jets, man, would this be a good win to get them back on track? I don't think so. I think it's probably going to be the Texans win this game and come up, get their, 7th win of the season, and that much more separation between them and the AFC South. Okay, so finished the program. Little quick note here. Just rewind to 24 hours ago. So finished the program here. Want to thank Andre Gibson. Man, he was great. Listen to the playback. Really funny. A lot of good lines. Says he likes Lane Kiffin to go to Florida. Coach Kevin Carroll says he predicts Lane Kiffin will go to Florida. I think Florida will probably lose this weekend to Georgia. I think Billy Napier's days are numbered. That's not a big story, but I did want to thank Andre for coming on. He's great, and also wanted to announce that Mike Richmond will be on in a few weeks. As a matter of fact, Mike Richmond, he's a writer, wrote a lot of books, quite a few books about the Washington Commanders. He has press passes to the Commander games. He's wanting to come on the day before the week of Thanksgiving. It would be the day after the 24th of November. That's when the Cowboys will be playing at the Commanders here. Mike Richmond will be on the 26th. So I'll give you a heads up to watch that interview. I'm going to go into the Commanders with him. Wanted him to come on tonight, but he says he wanted to come on after that game because he's got tickets and all that. That's fine. Give me some time to order his book. And Pickle says he likes Mr. Andre. So, I got a lot of good guests here. May try to get Rich Ferris on the program maybe next Tuesday and talk about the Titans from a standpoint of the trade deadline and whatnot, especially if there is a big big trade done because that trade deadline will be on Tuesday. So I wanted to make those quick announcements before I forgot. But again, going back to what I said at the beginning of this segment, rewind back 24 hours, finish up that show with Andre. I turned the game on, which the World Series on, which I recorded. Love John Smoltz, by the way. Man, he's one of my favorite color guys in all of baseball. And I haven't listened to baseball consistently in a long time. But I really like listening to John Smoltz, demeanor and whatnot, and his breakdowns of games. And the fact that the Yankees were up. When I turned that game off last night, I started getting tired about the fourth inning. The Yankees were up 5-0. I said, okay, that's going to go with my prediction. I said it'll be Dodgers in 6, so it's going to go back to L.A. Garrett Cole's pitching pretty good. So I turned the game off, still had it recorded. Turned the game off. It's 5-0 Yankees. And then, of course, I could not help myself. I woke up this morning and saw the Dodgers came back and won. And I thought maybe they chipped away. Cole got tired. The relief pitching, like it's been the bugaboo for the Yankees. That's why I didn't pick the Yankees to win this series. I knew they didn't quite have the relief pitching that the Dodgers had. And, of course, when so I still recorded the game. I just went back and watched it. And watching that fifth inning, man, I mean, Garrett Cole, how frustrated can you be with your teammates with those two major errors in the fifth inning? And of course, he made one himself. It's like he was so dumbfounded by the two innings. I know it was one by Aaron Judge, and I think it was by the second baseman. I can't remember the guy's name. The one by Aaron Judge was one thing. Then the one by – and I'm thinking to myself, having a flashback to the old Yankee teams from the early 2000s, when you start to see that, you'll see a guy like a Jeter call a timeout, call the team in and say, hey, listen, guys, let's get our head together here. This is a critical moment in this game. We're going to make the big plays here. Don't worry about it. I got your back. Of course, that play at second, that don't happen with Jeter out there. I mean, Jeter's just a big play-making machine. It just don't happen, and he does it at the right time. And you didn't see Aaron Boone call timeout. You didn't see a player step up. This is just a team with a bunch of players on there that are not bonded together. The chemistry's not there like it is with that Dodger team. There is just no excuse for that. And then on top of all that, you had those two eras, but then going back to Garrett Cole, ball gets hit out to the first base. He's supposed to be the cutoff man and go to first base. And for some reason, I think he was so dumbfounded about what had happened. He was shocked by what had happened there with this comeback here, that he didn't run at all, and there was no play on first base. And like John Smoltz said, you gave him 6 outs. What do you expect? I mean, this was like God, what's that guy's name? Who was that guy? Pickles, that golfer, that guy with the blonde hair, blew that huge league at the Masters one year, and everybody calls him the biggest choke artist on the planet. What's going on, Patrick? How you doing, brother? Good to see you. Hey, happy Halloween, brother. And like I told everybody, happy birthday to Nick Saban, who's born on Halloween. You know, some of Nick Saban's, I keep thinking about Nick Saban and his training camps. I mean, those are scary if you're a freshman coming into Alabama with all that kind of training. But it's just that they blew it all in one inning. I mean, that was the weird. And, of course, that being said, they were going to probably lose this series anyways. They would have pushed it to 6, and it would probably ended in now, if this would have been a 3-3, if this would have been a 3-3 tie, and the Yankees had a 5-0 lead, Garrett Cole would be on suicide watch today. You know, that dude would have to get – and John Smokes went to a sports psychologist. I remember him talking about that. He probably needs to go to one anyways. But you can only lean so much into one player. It goes to show you – and I wrote this down looking at some notes here. Listen, the Dodgers had eight pitchers. Freddie Freeman cranked up the World Series. Yeah, he did, Pat. The Dodgers had 8 relief pitchers come in and finish that game off. They only gave up one extra run. Then they gave up one extra run for the next 5 innings. The next 5 they went through 8 pitchers and gave up 5 runs to 0. 1 run remaining 5 innings. I don't see the Yankees. The Yankees need to get back to scouting the bullpen. They got to go out and get another Rivera or get somebody close to Rivera. You know, think about it from this perspective. I want to say how many Houston beats the Yankees almost every year when they beat them. And Houston don't have a big bunch of powerhouse hitters like a Yankees or even a Dodgers for that matter. But, man, I've seen them play a few years ago when they won their last World Series. And I'm thinking these guys, it was against the Phillies. They had a 7 or 8 pitcher no hit. I mean, that's what you got to have that middle and end relief. Your starting pitchers don't have to be Cy Young Award winning type. I mean, of course, you can't have a guy that's giving up 6-7 runs in the first. I get that. But you got to have guys out there to throw BBs and have ice water in their veins. The Dodgers, Pickles, that is a real stat. They had 8 pitchers in this game. 8. And what was his name? Flaherty, whatever. He gave up 4. And Roberts, he pulled him out, put another guy in. And I'm looking through that. I was like, 8 pitchers? Is that for real? Are you serious? 8 pitchers? 1 for every inning? It's about. But they got the World Series ring. They're going to have the parade next week in LA Dodger land. And, I think about Houston. Like I said, I mean, how many big guys, one of their players, they got a guy that's like 5'5" on their team, on those Astros teams that's won World Series. But you just got to have those ball hawks there and dogs there in the middle relief that nobody really knows about until October. You really don't know about them. And Pickle says passive aggressive by Aaron Judge unacceptable. I didn't even see that with Aaron Judge. Patrick says, I was flipping between the World Series and the sloppy 76ers team. They can't play defense, no bench, Embiid. Yeah, I know. And Altuve, yeah, thank you. Yeah, Altuve ain't 5 foot nothing, 100 and nothing. And he gets it done, man. I know they had the cheating scandal, but they won a few years later when everybody knew that they wouldn't cheat because everybody had their eyes on them. So they just have a good scouting system and a good farm system and whatnot, and go out and get those really good pitchers here. And you can see that there is a lot of chemistry. And I'm a big Aaron Judge guy. I didn't know Aaron Judge was 6'7". I didn't know that Ohtani's 6'4". These players are huge. I thought Ohtani was 5'10", because I'm always watching him at bat and he's bending over. I didn't know when he stands straight up. Ohtani is 6'4". Then you got Freddie Freeman there. I mean, former MVPs all over the place. Freddie Freeman MVP this year. That Kiki Hernandez guy. So that's one point I wanted to make about the World Series. Another point I wanted to make about the World Series was this was really the best team. 28% of the time, you heard that right, 28% of the time, the team with the best record in Major League Baseball regular season wins the World Series. This team won 98 games, and they won the World Series. So you're going to put them as one of the all-time great teams in Major League Baseball history. I don't think they're known more for a great pitching superstar. Yamamoto, or whatever his name is pretty good there for the Dodgers as a starting pitcher. Pickles, would you probably, and I was just watching that Pete Rose documentary on HBO. I want to say it came out last summer. I've talked about it. Of course, Pete Rose just recently passed away. Would this team be more compared to the Big Red Machine with the powerhouse hitters of the Reds in 75? Someone like Pickles and it's closer to my dad's age group, the 64 to 70 year olds there that keep up with that baseball history. This is more like a Reds 1975 team led by Pete Rose. And of course you had Johnny Bench, Joe Morgan. I hear a lot of got Colin Cowherds. He's in his 60s, I think. And he talks about that team. This feels more like that type of team rather than a team that was just had some dominant, great pitchers on here. They didn't have. Remember, Kershaw was their big dominant pitcher, but Kershaw wasn't a great pitcher in the postseason in the past. You know what I'm saying? So this was truly one of the better teams of all time, and you'd like to see a guy like Shohei Ohtani. Ratings were high in Japan here. And, I think to myself, this is his first year. This is his first year with the new team. He's, 31 years old, Ohtani. And you got to think about his teammate, his former teammate with the with the Anaheim Angels at LA, and whatever you want to call them. They keep changing it. I understand back in 2019, Mike Trout, he's 33 years old. Back in 2019, he signed a 12-year, $426 million contract and no playoff appearances. Last year, I know they were close to 500, but most of the seasons that Mike Trout, the great Mike Trout, has played with that Angels team, they're out of it by mid-June. I mean, they're totally out of it by mid-June, and he is sitting there rotting away with that team, And I understand, hey man, you got all the money, you got the 12-year deal, which is ridiculous, but $426 million, and he missed most of this past season. That's what I mean. Wasted career, and Ohtani's looking at him thinking, I don't want to be that man. You know what? You can pay me the X amount now, and I'll do what this guy Bobby Bonilla did, similar, back 30 years ago. This guy's a pretty smart guy, Ohtani is. He got past the gambling scandal, right? I'll do what he did, and I'll defer most of this money so we can keep this team together. And I'm going to go across the way here, stay in the same city, and I'm going to go to a winner. If it's me, I take a little less and go elsewhere. I just do not want to play for a team that bad, that extra few $1 million. How depressing is it that we, as somewhat of a baseball fan, getting back into baseball now? This pitch clock is really good. I mean, it's really speeding up. Now they just need to start the season in March, But I just think that discreetly, if I'm Mike Trout, I just ask him, hey man, can you trade me? Can you trade me to a contender? I mean, the off season's coming up. There was a trade done today. The Braves got somebody I couldn't keep up with. It wasn't a major player, but there's a lot of movement in Major League Baseball in December. A lot of you don't pay attention to it. I'll read it on the X out because I follow The Athletic and whatnot. and there's a lot of movement. And I'm asking my agent, and listen, it's nothing personal against ownership. Appreciate the opportunity, but just the Pujols went back to the Cardinals. Could you just move me already? I mean, could you move me to a contender? Could you move me to a Braves or somebody? Could you move me to maybe a Philadelphia? Could you move me to somebody that's got a good team here? Could you move me to Houston somewhere? Could you please do that? I mean, I made y'all a lot of money. I played here for a little bit of money before he signed that big contract in 2019. And then he gets this ridiculous, practically $400 million contract because they're not going to do anything in Anaheim. I mean, that Angels team is just not going to do anything. I mean, it's the very first year. I would have took less to go elsewhere, and I'm sure he's regretting it. He's 33, 34 years old. Baseball's a different sport. You can play later up in your mid-30s to 40s. Maybe he just plays as a DH now. You can DH now in the National League, if I'm not mistaken. That rule's been changed. So it's food for thought. I think Ohtani DH'd the whole year this year. So that's what I'm doing if I'm Mike Trout, man. I mean, the first year the guy goes and wins a ring. Ohtani's now going to be recognized as one of the greatest, if not the greatest baseball player of all time. He gets his ring. He's got his MVPs. He's got the hitting and the pitching thing down, the 50-50. He's going to get MVP. I mean, he's got it all now, and he beat that gambling scandal. Pickle says Bonilla is still getting checks. Yeah, it's some date in June sometime. Bonilla, they call it Bobby Bonilla Day up in New York, and he gets a check for like $1 million. And he's been getting it for 20-something years, man. More than 20 years. It's pretty weird the way all of that played out per se. All righty then. So, okay. There's another sport going on, and you all know, not to sound like a broken record, but I do not like the fact that baseball bleeds this much into the NFL. I do not like the fact that we're watching Major League Baseball games on Saturdays and Sunday nights competing with big-time college football is a big deal, folks. It's a big deal. It's a money maker. It's a ratings grabber. Saturday nights in September and October, there's big college games on. Guys like me going to watch that fast-paced, sense of urgency college game over a postseason baseball game. Okay, I'm just going to do it. Baseball bleeds too much into the NFL season when they should have settled this thing a month and a half ago, And then the NBA starts with the done. The NBA started last week and nobody was talking about it. There's why would you start the NBA in the middle of the World Series, okay, when you've got two historical teams here playing? I mean, Dodgers, Yankees. I mean, that is a big ratings getter for the TV people, okay? And you start this season, and by the way, the ratings have been horrendous. I was reading an article, the start of the NBA season, I think it started on like last Thursday, a week ago, and it was like 1,044,000. This is the NBA, the league that Magic Johnson, Michael Jordan, Shaquille O'Neal played in, the big NBA. And the ratings are in a tank. It started with a thud, just like Major League Baseball. Major League Baseball will start some of the games overseas somewhere, and then they'll have another game here in America on like a Tuesday, and then Thursday will be like an April 1st, and then everything will start then. The NFL is so structured. It's so structured. NFL says, yeah, we'll put one on that Thursday, and we'll put a really good one on that Friday and put it in another country. I didn't like that. And then we'll flood Sunday night with just some of the great games, and they'll start off with a bang like racing. My dad, he big racing fan. He like Daytona 500. Start off with a bang. So NBA's is starting off in the middle of October when the NBA should be starting in like December, closer to Christmas sometime, and their finals should go in July. There's no competition. Why don't you take care of that competition? So anyways, so that I say all that, and I'm hoping to get Jeffrey Deskovic on next week, maybe next Thursday, and talk that. So that's my original vent on the NBA, okay? Considering the fact that it starts off here last week of Dud, maybe next Thursday. But as far as right now, I know the national sports talk shows, they're going to talk about the Lakers getting older and LeBron James playing with his son. We're going to get all that talk. Pickle says it's greed. And the NBA, yeah, who cares? I mean, the NBA is really good. Here's what really annoys me about the NBA right now. You got Victor Wembanyama up there down there in San Antonio, a phenomenal player. The NBA is being poorly marketed right now in America. It's like they don't even care about the fan base here because it's such a global league now. But you got a phenom of a player down there that people really want to get into. And I think as the years go on, they're going to get more and more into watching what's going to happen around Wembanyama. You've had different champions the last few years. The last 4 years, the competition on the court's good. It's very good. It's just the marketing outside of it, and the situation with the NBA is really hurt the NBA. But again, going back to my notes here, the national people, they're going to talk a lot about the Lakers and LeBron and his son playing, Bronny playing with him and everything. And the truth of the matter is the Lakers they're not getting any younger. I'm not going to be talking about the Lakers like they have a real shot to win an NBA championship. I know they've got a new coach there and whatnot. They're still going to be the same old Lakers. The problem with the Lakers is the competition is just better and better and better between Dallas, Minnesota, Denver. Okay. They're not going to get past these teams. They're simply not going to get past these teams. And LeBron's 44. I mean, it's just not going to happen. Same thing with the Warriors team. I know that Clay or Steph's a really good player and whatnot, and they've got off to a pretty good start this year without Klay Thompson. But I just don't think that's going to happen. I do not believe that's going to happen with these teams. They're going to talk about the Suns with Kevin Durant. Well, look at how the Suns have finished each season. Kevin Durant's going to miss about 25 or 30 games at some point, and they're going to get behind. They're going to come into the playoffs late. Maybe he gets healthy by the playoffs, and they underachieve every year just like they do. They don't play a lick of defense when they need to. And people's going to be blaming everybody else around, knowing the fact that simply they've got two players on there and one young player that's inconsistent when it comes to the defensive side in Booker. And they're not going to amount to anything anyways. But the media will talk about these teams like they're going to be end-all, be-all. And they're going to be hanging out between the 7th seed with the play-in game and the 10th seed all season long. I want to talk about the teams I think can actually win the championship. I don't like to just talk about the Cowboys in the big markets. Maybe that's why my show hasn't taken off yet. So anyways, all that being said, I do think on early on, it looks like Klay Thompson's going to be a good fit there with this Dallas Mavericks team because he's not the second guy. He's not the third guy. He might not be the fourth guy. Quite frankly, he's going to be 35 years. He's going to be 35 years old in February, right around the trade deadline. I think maybe you make a Klay Thompson. maybe you make a Klay Thompson an off the bench guy. Maybe he's the seventh man, sixth man, seventh man off the bench. Then you get another younger player in on that Dallas team to help out when the money gets on the line. Look at it that way. I made some notes here. If Jason Kidd can manage this group right where P.J. Washington and Kyrie, by the way, Kyrie Irving with 33 in March. I thought Irving was a year or two older than that. He's still young enough that you can probably depend on him big come April, come May and June. You just got to manage how and when to use him, okay? But I said this. If you could get a P.J. Washington and a Kyrie Irving to contribute late in games where they're touching the basketball, and all the usage, you hear that word a lot in the NBA now, where all the usage is not totally based on what Luka's going to do. You cannot put that many minutes on Luka and him handling the ball. He does this every year where he wears out at the end of games. He's like a rich man's James Harden, except he's a much more highly productive player, but he wears down. So if you could keep those two guys, P.J. Washington and Kyrie Irving, taking the load off of him midway through the fourth quarter, when it gets down to that last 2 minutes and it's 3 to 5 point game, then go ahead and say, okay, Luka, do your thing. But Luka, let's not take Luka midway through the third quarter all the way to the end of the game and where he's totally wore out. But this is a good Dallas team. They have the right amount of in other words, I'm saying all that to say this. I don't think they were a one-year wonder. I got to looking at them. They beat Minnesota last night. And you look at this Gafford guy, and then you look at who was that other guy they had off the bench now? And I can't even find him now. He must be hurt. Their other center there, maybe it is Gafford. But, they've got Dinwiddie or Lively. That's what I was looking at. Derek Lively. Lively is still coming off the bench. Lively is a second-year player. Remember, he was a rookie last year. Lively was money. He looked like he was lost in that Boston final. He looked lost in that final. Try to get Lively more alive in the game because of his talent and what he brings to the table. I do not know why. Now, I know Gifford went 6 for 6 last night. But I would probably, if it's me, now it's early. We're talking October. We should be playing this game in October. But if it's me, if I'm Jason Kidd, I'm trying to work Lively into the starter's role and put Gafford behind him instead of having Gafford do it the other way around. Lively is a talented guy on the inside, Pickles. That is the guy. That Lively guy is the guy that could get you over the top and potentially win a championship for this Dallas team. That's what I think about him. And I'm looking at the minutes. I'm just looking at that Minnesota game last night. Like I said, we're 4 games in the season. Klay Thompson does not need to be playing 30 minutes. When we get in March, that dude needs to be playing about 15 minutes to 20 tops, okay? 15. They got to start monitoring his minutes there because he's going to be 35 in February. And he's coming off surgeries and all that and injuries from a few years ago, But, where am I at here? All right, so we'll get back here to make sure. So again, that's what I think that they need to do late in games. They could win it all, They could beat a well-oiled Celtics team. Now, of course, Celtics, they're going to get Porzingis back in December. And I was looking at the Celtics. Now, he's injury prone, and he's going to be injury prone, Pickles. But Al Horford's 38 years old. They got this guy named Luke Cornett. That's their other center. So they may have to make a move at some point. Tatum is playing at an all-world level. Jaylen Brown playing, and he won the MVP, playing at all-world. Derek White. They're going to be fine. They look fine. You could see they're a well-oiled machine. But at that point, do you think you're going to have problems as this team is constructed now with that center position come late March, April, and May, playoff times? I know that management's got to be looking at that saying, I'm not sure that with Horford, are we going to get 30 minutes out of Horford come late in the season? I don't know. At 38, what a career this guy's had. He could have walked away last year. So I do think that's going to be an issue. That's going to be an issue for this Boston team as they look ahead into the regular season. So that's something to monitor. I want to say it's February 6th is the NBA trade deadline. I kind of wish they'd push that back a little bit, but it's usually in February. It's right around the All-Star break. And so that's my concern about them. And just going over some notes of the other teams, just previewing them. Okay, now Denver. I was wrong. Bad scope, right? Remember I do good scope, bad scope, Pickles. Russell Westbrook, it was a terrible pickup. My bad. And I'll say it to Carlos again. I'll ask him to get his opinion on what he thinks is going to happen in the NBA. Westbrook has a plus-minus of -37. He's a train wreck when he's out there, even off the bench. One scout said Russell Westbrook should retire now. The team should cut him. Yes. I was looking up a few articles about Denver. They just don't have enough right now. We saw them run out of gas in Game 7 last year in the conference semis. We saw them run out of gas last year in the conference semis, and Minnesota came back, took everything out of Minnesota, and Dallas beat them. But Denver cannot win the way they're constructed. It's not if. It's not maybe, possibly, or should. It's they must. They must make a move and get another player on this team. I was reading some articles about them as I was preparing for the program. They really, a lot of the writers and myself included, your only real trade piece there would be Michael Porter, who is just inconsistent. He's young. He's in his prime. He's 6'10". Maybe he fits better with somebody else in their system. Would you go out and get a Brandon Ingram, who's been talked about in trade talks from New Orleans, Pickles? Would you go out and get him? He's a lot more consistent there at that position than a Michael Porter Jr. That would be a pretty attractive move there. Maybe have to get another team involved to go after a guy like that. Zach LaVine is popped up in certain situations. Could they go out and get a Zach LaVine from the Bulls? He's been talked about for 2 years to being traded. If you can bring a Zach LaVine off the bench, now he's not going to take Jamal Murray's place, and I'm not coming off Jamal Murray, but could you bring a Zach LaVine off the bench? Zach LaVine, I'm saying, hey, do you want a ring, man? Do you want a ring? I know you went to the playoff, but we're in a ring business here, okay? Do you want to play with the Joker, one of the greatest passers of all time? So they need to make a move and get one of those guys, preferably both of them, but that's probably going to be impossible. But they're not constructed right now to win a championship. when they won a couple of years ago, I thought this team's constructed to win multiple championships. They do not have the depth right now. They run out of gas. They are really, really shorthanded. And we saw that in the playoffs last year. We saw it the year before that, but Joker was playing at such a high level with Jamal Murray. Him and Jamal Murray kind of basically carried the team. And I love me some Aaron Gordon there. But with Aaron Gordon there and the Joker there, they might have enough size to move off a Porter, per se, who wants to hang out at the three-point line anyways. So as constructed right now, Denver's not a championship team. This thing can change. We've seen big moves done at the NBA trade deadline that turn that turn teams around and they go on and win the championship from it. So it's food for thought. That needs to be done. Okay, Minnesota. Karl Anthony Towns, we know he has had a huge game last night. Guys, I don't know if you've seen that. 44 points from Karl Anthony Towns with the Knicks. I'll get back to him in a minute. But Minnesota, they traded Karl Anthony Towns. Yes, Julius Randle in October. He looks great right now. Julius Randle, I want to say I screenshotted 23 points, 7 rebounds, 5 assists, shoot to 60%. That ain't going to last. He's only 4 games into the season. That being said, Julius Randle looks good. They also could use a Zach LaVine, per se. They could use a Zach LaVine type. I love Mike Conley. Mike Conley is way, way past his 36. 30. I mean, he's up there with Horford practically in age wise. They need help at that point guard position. We seen Anthony Edwards wear down last year. He can't just carry it, do 150 miles an hour, and carry this team to a championship. They do look more fluid this year without Karl Anthony Towns. They know Rudy Gobert's there for defense and rebounds and get his 6, 8, 10 points a night. But that's not going to be enough. I know McDaniels is having a pretty good game season too, but he needs another player as well. Minnesota's going to come up short this year. And I do think that eventually he's going to pull a Kevin Garnett and say, man, I don't even think Kevin Garnett made it public, a big public thing, but we know what happened. Garnett got traded to the Boston Celtics and ended up winning the whole championship. Okay. Now back to Towns, Knicks. Again, 44 points last night for Karl Anthony Towns. I thought I misread that this morning. I was barely awake this morning. I looked at it and I said, okay, they're talking about Karl Anthony Towns' big night, but they lost 106 to 107. Then I looked at it today and said, oh, wait a minute. 116 to 107. They did beat Miami. That was a good win for him and Jalen Brunson. So far, so good. But as I talked about with Carlos a couple of weeks ago when this thing happened, a few weeks back maybe, when this big trade happened, yes, they're ready. They're ready for a potential championship run. But if Tom Thibodeau has got to find a way to get all of his bench players involved in the game. You just can't wear out your starters and hope that you can limp into the playoffs and win a championship. So a lot of this is going to become how he manages this team. Can you keep Karl Anthony Towns healthy come playoff time? Can you keep Anunoby was hurt last year. Brunson got hurt at the end. So a lot of this is how they utilize their bench. They've got the players to go far, possibly win a championship. How do you know that somebody else may not get injured, right? You know, he's got to he grind. It's good to grind your starters, but you have to play your bench too. I mean, you're coaching 12 players, you're not coaching 5. That's his job and his assistant's job to do it. That's the biggest question mark. I do think right now, saying everybody plays and everybody's healthy, I do think there'll probably be an Eastern Conference final team. I think they could push a Boston to a 7 games. They should have played Boston last year, but they just fell apart at the end and lost to Indiana. So that's what I think about them. Oklahoma City, they're 4-0. What do you expect? Oklahoma City, a money play there. Maybe they need to add, not maybe, they do need. Oklahoma City, maybe they should add a Brandon Ingram. You know, I was just looking up some sites, and a lot of them kept showing Brandon Ingram. Brandon Ingram's a very solid, consistent player to play with SGA, better Sega Glorious Alexander, better known as SGA. Love Chet Holmgren. He's only in year 3. Now, SGA's 27, 28. Now, he's ready. He's ready to win. I do not know if the players around him are ready to win. I do know Oklahoma City is going to be a high seed, maybe a 1, maybe a 2, and they're probably going to have home court advantage like they did last year, but it's hard to get that 1 seed 2 years in a row. Keep that in mind. But I simply think they're a little young right now. They need to add another vet there somewhere to help this team learn and grow as the season's going along. They definitely got the talent there. Love Sam Presti, the general manager. But I think it's a little premature, kind of like that other Oklahoma City team 10, 12 years ago, 15 years ago, that had a young 23-year-old and young 24-year-old Westbrook and Kevin Durant. They just didn't quite have the maturity yet with the team together. So they're a team to watch. I think they're going to come up a little short in the playoffs, pending they make a move here. So, again, with the Suns, what's going on there, Nigel? You know, I may have to bring now, Nigel. If you're up this hour, whatever time it is in Australia, I got to bring you on sometime. We'll talk about your favorite American sports here, buddy. I've been wanting to interview you for a while, man, and I just keep forgetting because I got a lot on my plate working multiple jobs. Back to the NBA. Listen, the Suns again, the Lakers again, the Clippers again, the Clippers. I haven't mentioned the Clippers yet, but I'll mention them now. The Clippers with Kawhi Leonard. I don't think he's playing yet. They're too old or too injured or both. My man Patrick there from Philadelphia. Same thing with the 76ers. I mean, is Paul George and Joel Embiid really going to play 60 games together? What are they going to look like in the playoffs? You know, the Kings always seem to be a player away. I just don't think it's going to be there for the Kings. They're a wild card. Same thing with the Heat. The Heat seem to be a player away. They can't keep Jimmy Butler healthy long enough to carry this team. They're well coached. They got a lot of young overachievers, but we've heard that story for 5-6 years now out of the Miami Heat, and it still ain't happening. You know, I made some notes here. Cleveland, Orlando. What's up, Nigel? Cleveland, Orlando. They're interesting. Like that big man. Was it Jared Allen for Cleveland? Got a nice double-double last night. He's getting a little older. He was banged up in the playoffs last year. I know they got Kenny Atkinson there as their head coach. Feels like that they're interesting, but simply not talented enough as a whole. And I know Orlando may blow up and become something big, but they're so young. It's too hard, too premature to see that. That vision is very blurry right now. I can't see it. So I say all that, Nigel Pickles. My guess is that Dallas figures it out and they beat Boston in a rematch in 6 games. You know, maybe that happens. Maybe Boston wins, but I'm picking Dallas to beat Boston. Now, that being said, again, as active as the trade deadline has become in the NBA over the years, that's subject to change when they get new information. You know, if something happens with OKC, if they can bring in a Brandon Ingram, or if same thing with Denver, or Zach LaVine go to a Denver or somebody like that, you know, or maybe the Knicks take off and they're running 8-10 deep. Maybe I could, put the Knicks in there. I could see the Knicks getting to the conference finals, and it feels like it's probably going to be maybe a Dallas and an OKC this time, and instead of Minnesota in the Western Conference Finals. You know, we'll see how that thing plays out. We got to know who plays who. Pickles says, and I certainly hope to. I mean, when you got a guy like a Joker, do you just want to win one championship? I mean, when you seen a guy like Shaq, when you seen a guy like Akeem Olajuwon, two bigs, either really skillful, really powerful, really dominant, do you just want to see him win one championship? Akeem got 2 championships. Shaq's got, 4? You know, you hated about Pat Ewing, but those guys were bigger and more skilled than Pat Ewing, you know? And I think Joker is right up there with those guys. If you're Denver, love Mike Malone, that head coach there, you got to make a move. Go out and get another player or 2. They need another bench player. And then they do away with Russell Westbrook, and they need another bench player, and they need another starter there, and probably move off of, again, Michael Porter Jr., who seems to not be getting it done. They're not be getting it done in the big games. So that's my NBA preview in a nutshell. As the season goes along, from time to time, I still like the NBA, even though the ratings have plummeted. Again, the competition's good. I like the world competition. And, of course, I still think that the Spurs are, they still have to grow around Wembanyama. I really got Chris Paul there, but the Spurs still have a ways to go. The Spurs will be interesting. Maybe they get a play-in game or whatnot. Same thing with Houston. And, of course, everybody, all the people that talk about Utah is getting that Laurie McLaurin guy. And apparently he's not going to get traded. So that's the story behind that. And, of course, Milwaukee could get blown up by the trade deadline as well. So Giannis could get moved somewhere. Damian Lillard could get moved somewhere. And Doc Rivers could get fired this year. So if Doc Rivers gets fired, Ja Morant and Memphis, we got to see them grow together. We got to see Ja stay healthy as well. I think they may make a coaching change in Memphis. Memphis has to show me something. And I love Ja Morant. But I don't know how much he's grown up or if he's not grown up, Pickles. So that's I like Ja. Out of Nashville, I'd love to see Ja Morant do good. I know they got the 2 seed in the West a few years ago. And by the way, I know he's getting a lot of he didn't get a lot of playing time. Kudos to Steven Adams. I think he's now with the Pelicans. I saw him the other day. I thought his career was over with. I'm glad to see Steven Adams, former Grizzly, be back in it. Good to see him back in action. I want to say he blocked Wembanyama the other day. The great Steven Adams, Pickles, he's back, Pickles. Steven Adams is back. Yeah, Chris Paul's 150 years old. He's my age out there trying to do things, man, and he's not very tall. Thank you, Pickles. That's a lot of sports there. I got Major League Baseball. I got the NFL, and I got a boatload of basketball. I don't know what else to give you. If you guys like the show, share the show. Nigel, I'm going to get back to you here shortly. We're going to have to bring you on the program, brother. And hopefully I'll be back tomorrow with the Mad New Yorker, get his thoughts on that World Series and see who he thinks is going to make it to the NBA Finals as well. Have a good night, everybody. I'll see you tomorrow, same time, same place, here on The Real Sports.